I've thought about as I've written the other posts that are coming out later dates is, working at a company, owning a company as well. I have to question: do we have any obligations, morally or otherwise, to protect individuals who are vulnerable or potentially vulnerable from harm, whether it's financially or futuristic? The biggest thing is, what is a vulnerable customer? Pulled a definition from fca.org.uk, and they define a vulnerable customer as someone who, due to their personal circumstance, is especially suspect to detriment, particularly when a firm is not acting with appropriate levels of care. Now, there are certain things that we talk about within companies. It's difficult to ask people to do, and a lot of companies don't want to talk about it. So the BCCA, who I have all this information down below, provides a quick little sheet that's for the UK, kind of a 10 thing. And towards the end, I'll talk about why this comes into play. Part of their thing, if you look it up, is rigidly sticking to rules can often lead to worse situations or can make them worse, resulting in complaints, poor customer outcomes, listening cuts, and they kind of give this huge long thing. So they do 10 tips for handling vulnerable customers. It was made by Lisa Holder. She is the Deputy Chief Executive. As I've said, all of this will be down below. This sheet can actually be downloaded by following the link by the BCCA, and they are a UK organization. So the first one, make sure you have a vulnerable customer policy. I don't know that we have one at the company that I work for. I know my company doesn't have one. We will be working on it as time progresses. Be flexible. Yes, be flexible. Consider creating a dedicated team. Right now, that's me, and that's it. We don't deal with too many of my personal business, but the company that I do work for does deal with these people. And I have seen it, and there's going to be stories later. Step 4 is train your staff, and then 5 is provide support staff. My question is, how do you do that? And then there's big, long lists that I don't really feel like going into. Signpost is specialist help. Read over that quick. And so basically, what that is, take a call from, say, the person that's vulnerable. You send that over to someone who's responsible or can help them out. Ensure compliance with the Data Protection Act of 1998. I live in the U.S. That's not applicable, at least that I know of. Maybe it should be. Flag up accounts. This is something that we should do. Unfortunately, at my company and the company other company that I work for, there's no way to do this. People walk in, they buy stuff, they walk out. Kind of end of story. My company, I do know who the vulnerable accounts would be. Number 9, ensure you can handle third-party requests. This doesn't apply to us normally. It's something to be thought of. And the last one is treat customers the way you want to be treated. If you've ever seen the movie Roadhouse, it's basically saying, be nice. And that whole be nice thing. And here's where it gets kind of the personal side of it. I've done what I've done for 10 years. Over 10 years. It's going on, as of recording this, 13 years that I've done what I've done. And I've seen the full gamut of what is happening, and things that I've seen. The first one I wrote down is there's a homeless man, or a man claiming to be homeless, from Florida. I'm in Minneapolis. I'm in the north side of Minneapolis. And he wanted to buy a bumper sticker. Now, he only had coinage, sorted coins to pay with, and he wanted a bumper sticker. Now, for me, I feel that there's the certain hierarchy of needs. I don't think a bumper sticker is what you need if you're from Florida, you're homeless, and all you have is coin, or basically coins that you had collected. However, I don't know. I would think that food would be more important. This individual wanted a bumper sticker. I had refused him service and said maybe you should go get food first. String him along, da 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 da. He then comes back, and the next day my boss sells it to him. Not a big deal. He was a nice guy. It's just making poor choices for himself. And I think that as a company, I feel I did the right thing. Granted, this was an older adult who, would fit into that, possible vulnerable customer. So I wasn't sure what to do. And the thing is, like, I don't have one thing. I've had several other individuals that have come through our retail store. We don't have anything that you actually need. It's mostly kind of luxury items, I would say, more so than anything. We do have sweatshirts and things, but that's usually not what these people are looking at. I shouldn't be laughing. Several of them show mental and intellectual disability. Now, granted, someone might say that I'm falling into that category, or a lot of our customers might. I'm saying these people are generally, like, really bad. I can name a few that we sit and we handle and we deal with, sometimes weekly, sometimes monthly, sometimes within a regular basis. And they kind of have the mental capacity of a child. It's kind of like watching a 5-year-old make buying decisions. And it's really unfortunate because they're adults, but something in their head just doesn't connect, whether it's a genetic issue or otherwise. And a lot of these people are heavily dependent on a caregiver, whether that's a parent or a guardian or an outside provider. It's really unfortunate to see, and in a way, I don't feel that selling to them is always right morally. I'm sure my boss and the owner of the company would say differently, but I know sometimes it's really hard to make that choice. We can't make that choice for other people. But if you have a caregiver, a lot of times they just don't care. These caregivers are paid usually minimum wage, and they're working 12-hour days. They're usually college kids, really young. So they just don't care about the well-being of this individual they're in, get the job experience, and move on. The next thing is there are a few notable exceptions. We do have one regular customer who we've had in our store every week for the past 10 years. He comes in sometimes, 2-3 times a week, and the mall that we're in isn't super busy, so he's able to just walk around, look around. He doesn't bother anyone. He really doesn't do anything. He'll look at the product that we have. If he finds something that he likes, which happens 2 to 3 times a year, he'll bring in either his parents or his caregiver or guardians who are with him, and they will actually make the purchase for him, and then we have to do some quick paperwork. So he's one of the few notable exceptions, and he seems to be all mentally there. He just kind of gets kerfuffled at times, and he's one of the few that I feel confident selling to. I don't have guilt to sell to that individual because he just comes in and looks, and he looks slowly, he looks carefully and weighs his options, and he's independent enough to do that. He just needs help with some of the other items. I am going to email this to the district manager for the company that I work for. I'm going to see if there's a company policy in place that I'm unaware of, and see if there's anything that we should be worrying about as far as what I do. Of course, the first one. I'm also going to be working on my personal company's policy on this because I feel it's super important. I'm going to include all my notes that I have on this printed page that I'm reading off. There's some links on the top, a little bit of kind of the notes on the bottom. And here's the thing: these things don't keep me awake at night, but it is something that I have to question now and again. If you dealt with this, please leave your comments down below. I want to have a constructive conversation. The comments are heavily monitored. Trust me, I read through them. But this is something that I talked about and thought about, and I think that needs to get brought to the forefront and talked to.